Hello and welcome back. This is your host Harshit Simha, continuing from the previous topic of introducing the GRI mission, vision, process, protocol, strategies etc. Today I will briefly discuss some major topics of modular system as part 2 on GRI standards, global best practice for sustainability reporting. The GRI standards modular reporting architecture represents a refined evolution in sustainability disclosure, designed to balance methodological rigor with practical adaptability. Rather than imposing a monolithic reporting structure, the modular approach enables organizations to construct disclosures through interlinked yet independent standards, comprising universal, sector, and topic-specific modules. This design ensures both consistency in core principles and flexibility in application, allowing entities to tailor their reporting to material impacts and sectoral relevance. At its core, the modularity enhances materiality-driven reporting, encouraging organizations to prioritize disclosures that reflect their most significant economic, environmental, and social impacts. The universal standards establish foundational requirements, governance, strategy, ethics, and stakeholder engagement, while sector standards contextualize industry-specific risks and opportunities. Topic standards further enable granular reporting on critical issues such as climate change, biodiversity, labor practices, and human rights. This layered configuration promotes comparability without compromising relevance, a critical attribute in the global ESG landscape. It also supports regulatory convergence, enabling alignment with emerging frameworks and jurisdictional mandates. From a strategic perspective, the modular approach facilitates incremental adoption, allowing organizations at varying maturity levels to progressively enhance disclosure quality. Ultimately, the GRI's modular framework transforms sustainability reporting into a dynamic, scalable, and decision-useful system, reinforcing transparency, accountability, and long-term value creation in an increasingly complex global economy. Slide 2. The 3 series of GRI standards. The depiction of the 3 series of GRI standards presents a coherent and hierarchical architecture that underpins globally harmonized sustainability reporting. This tripartite structure, comprising universal standards, sector standards, and topic standards, reflects a deliberate design aimed at ensuring both foundational consistency and contextual specificity in disclosures. The universal standards form the cornerstone of the framework, establishing overarching principles, general disclosures, and guidance on materiality assessment. They serve as the baseline for all reporting entities, ensuring that governance structures, ethical practices, and stakeholder engagement processes are communicated with clarity and uniformity. Building upon this foundation, the sector standards introduce an industry-specific lens, recognizing that sustainability impacts vary significantly across sectors. By tailoring disclosure requirements to sectoral risks and opportunities, such as those in oil and gas, mining, or agriculture, these standards enhance the relevance and decision usefulness of reported information. Complementing both are the topic standards, which provide detailed metrics and disclosures on particular sustainability issues, ranging from climate change and energy consumption to labor rights and anti-corruption. This allows organizations to address material topics with depth and precision. Collectively, the 3 series operate as an integrated system, analogous to interlocking gears, driving comprehensive, transparent, and comparable sustainability reporting while enabling organizations to align disclosures with their unique operational and impact profiles. Slide 3. Universal Standards, the Foundation. The illustration of GRI Universal Standards as the foundation aptly conveys their pivotal role in anchoring the entire sustainability reporting architecture. These standards function as the conceptual and procedural bedrock, ensuring that all organizations, irrespective of size, sector, or geography, adhere to a consistent and credible framework for disclosure. At the forefront is GRI 1, Foundation, 2021, which articulates the purpose, system, and authoritative principles of the GRI framework. It establishes the essential concepts of impact-based reporting, thereby guiding organizations to align disclosures with their most significant economic, environmental, and social effects. Complementing this is GRI 2, General Disclosures, 2021, which requires organizations to provide a comprehensive overview of their governance structures, strategic orientation, ethical conduct, and stakeholder engagement practices. This ensures a transparent narrative that contextualizes sustainability performance within the broader organizational ecosystem. Further, GRI 3, Material Topics, 2021, introduces a structured approach to identifying and prioritizing material issues. It directs organizations to focus on impacts that are most significant to stakeholders in society, thereby enhancing the relevance and decision usefulness of reported information. Collectively, these universal standards establish a robust, principle-driven foundation, enabling coherent, comparable, and high-quality sustainability reporting while fostering accountability, strategic clarity, and long-term value creation. Slide 4. Sector Standards, Industry-Specific Guidance. The representation of GRI sector standards as industry-specific guidance underscores their critical role in enhancing the precision and contextual relevance of sustainability reporting. While the universal standards establish a common foundation, the sector standards introduce a nuanced, sectoral lens, acknowledging that sustainability impacts and risks are inherently differentiated across industries. These standards are meticulously designed to address high-impact sectors such as oil and gas, coal, agriculture, aquaculture, fishing, and mining, industries that exert significant environmental and socio-economic influence. By prescribing sector-relevant disclosures, they enable organizations to report on issues that are most material within their operational context, including resource extraction, emissions intensity, biodiversity impacts, labor conditions, and community relations. Importantly, the sector standards enhance comparability within industries, allowing stakeholders, investors, regulators, and civil society to benchmark performance across peer organizations. This fosters greater transparency and drives accountability, particularly in sectors subject to heightened scrutiny. Moreover, these standards serve as a bridge between global reporting principles and localized operational realities, ensuring that disclosures are both globally consistent and practically meaningful. They also facilitate alignment with evolving regulatory expectations and international sustainability frameworks. In essence, the GRI sector standards transform generic reporting into strategically relevant, impact-focused disclosure, enabling organizations to articulate their sustainability performance with depth, credibility, and industry-specific insight. Slide 5. Environmental Topic Standards. Overview. The illustration of environmental topic standards within the GRI framework presents a structured and comprehensive taxonomy of environmental disclosures, reflecting the increasing centrality of ecological stewardship in corporate reporting. These standards are meticulously organized across key thematic pillars: climate and energy, resources, and pollution and waste, thereby enabling organizations to systematically capture and communicate their environmental impacts. At a strategic level, standards such as biodiversity and climate change emphasize the urgency of preserving natural ecosystems and mitigating global warming, aligning corporate disclosures with international environmental priorities. The inclusion of energy and emissions metrics further reinforces the need for organizations to quantify their carbon footprint and transition towards low-carbon operations. Under the resources category, standards addressing materials and water management highlight the importance of efficient resource utilization and sustainable consumption practices. These disclosures are particularly critical in sectors with intensive resource dependencies, ensuring accountability in the stewardship of finite natural assets. The pollution and waste segment, encompassing emissions, waste management, and environmental compliance, underscores the responsibility of organizations to minimize adverse environmental externalities and adhere to regulatory norms. Collectively, the environmental topic standards provide a granular, impact-oriented framework that enhances transparency, comparability, and decision usefulness. They enable organizations to move beyond symbolic commitments, embedding environmental accountability into measurable, reportable, and strategically aligned sustainability practices. Slide 6. GRI 101, Biodiversity 2024. The presentation of GRI 101, Biodiversity 2024 reflects a significant advancement in sustainability reporting, elevating biodiversity from a peripheral concern to a core strategic priority within corporate disclosures. This standard responds to the intensifying global imperative to address ecosystem degradation, species loss, and the broader implications of nature-related risks on economic systems. At its essence, GRI 101 establishes a comprehensive and impact-oriented framework that guides organizations in identifying, assessing, and disclosing their interactions with biodiversity. It extends beyond mere site-level reporting to encompass value chain impacts, thereby encouraging a holistic understanding of how business activities influence ecosystems, habitats, and species. This broadened scope ensures that organizations account for both direct and indirect dependencies on natural capital. Importantly, the standard aligns with evolving global initiatives such as the Kunming-Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework, reinforcing coherence between corporate reporting and international policy objectives. It enables organizations to articulate nature-related risks, dependencies, and mitigation strategies with greater clarity and consistency. Furthermore, GRI 101 promotes science-based and location-specific disclosures, recognizing that biodiversity impacts are inherently context-dependent. By doing so, it enhances the credibility and decision usefulness of reported information. Overall, GRI 101, Biodiversity 2024 represents a transformational shift toward nature-positive reporting, embedding ecological accountability into corporate governance and long-term value creation. Slide 7. GRI 102, Climate Change 2025 and GRI 103, Energy 2025. The depiction of GRI 102, Climate Change 2025 and GRI 103, Energy 2025 reflects a significant advancement in the GRI framework, reinforcing the centrality of climate accountability and energy transition within contemporary sustainability reporting. These updated standards provide a robust and forward-looking structure for organizations to disclose climate-related risks, opportunities, and performance with enhanced precision and strategic relevance. GRI 102, Climate Change 2025 establishes comprehensive disclosure requirements covering both mitigation and adaptation dimensions. It enables organizations to articulate their greenhouse gas emissions, climate governance, scenario analysis, and resilience strategies, thereby aligning reporting with global climate objectives and stakeholder expectations. The standard emphasizes transparency in identifying financial and operational risks arising from climate change, ensuring decision-useful insights for investors and policymakers. Complementing this, GRI 103, Energy 2025 focuses on the efficient management and transformation of energy systems within organizations. It addresses energy consumption patterns, intensity metrics, and reduction initiatives, while encouraging the adoption of renewable energy sources and decarbonization pathways. The inclusion of granular energy data enhances the credibility and comparability of disclosures. Together, these standards create a cohesive framework for climate and energy reporting, enabling organizations to integrate environmental responsibility into strategic planning, strengthen resilience, and contribute meaningfully to the global transition toward a low-carbon and sustainable economy. Slide 8. Environmental resources, materials, water and energy. The depiction of environmental resources, materials, water, and energy within the GRI framework underscores the centrality of resource stewardship in contemporary sustainability reporting. These standards collectively articulate how organizations interact with, depend upon, and impact finite natural resources, thereby shaping their environmental footprint and long-term resilience. GRI 301, Materials, 2016, emphasizes the responsible sourcing and utilization of raw inputs, including recycled and reclaimed materials. It encourages organizations to transition toward circular economy principles by optimizing material efficiency, reducing waste, and minimizing reliance on virgin resources. GRI 302, Energy, 2016, addresses energy consumption both within and beyond organizational boundaries, focusing on efficiency improvements and reductions achieved. It reflects the growing imperative for organizations to decarbonize operations, enhance energy productivity, and integrate renewable energy solutions into their operational models. GRI 303, Water and Effluents, 2018, provides a comprehensive framework for managing water withdrawal, consumption, and discharge. It highlights the importance of safeguarding water resources, particularly in water-stressed regions, and mitigating adverse impacts on aquatic ecosystems. Collectively, these standards enable quantifiable, transparent, and comparable disclosures, fostering accountability in resource management. They also support strategic decision-making by aligning operational practices with environmental sustainability, regulatory expectations, and stakeholder demands, ultimately advancing responsible and resilient business conduct. Slide 9. Environmental pollution and waste standards. The depiction of environmental pollution and waste standards within the GRI framework underscores a rigorous and accountability-driven approach to managing adverse environmental externalities arising from organizational activities. These standards collectively establish a comprehensive disclosure regime that enables organizations to quantify, monitor, and mitigate their environmental footprint across emissions, effluents, and waste streams. GRI 305, Emissions, 2016, addresses the measurement and reporting of greenhouse gas emissions, including Scope 1, Scope 2, and relevant Scope 3 categories. It emphasizes transparency in emissions intensity, reduction initiatives, and climate-related performance, thereby aligning corporate practices with global decarbonization imperatives. Complementing this, GRI 306, Effluents and Waste, 2016, updated 2020, provides a structured framework for disclosing water discharge quality, waste generation, treatment, and disposal methods. The updated standard strengthens requirements on waste management practices, encouraging a shift towards circular economy principles and responsible waste minimization. Further extending accountability, GRI 308, Supplier Environmental Assessment, 2016, integrates environmental due diligence within the supply chain, requiring organizations to evaluate suppliers based on environmental criteria and address identified risks. Collectively, these standards foster a preventive, life cycle-oriented approach, ensuring that pollution control and waste management are embedded within strategic decision-making. They enhance transparency, support regulatory compliance, and enable organizations to contribute meaningfully to environmental sustainability and long-term ecological resilience. Slide 10. Economic Topic Standards. Overview. The presentation of GRI Economic Topic Standards offers a comprehensive framework for evaluating an organization's economic footprint and governance integrity within the broader sustainability paradigm. These standards extend beyond traditional financial reporting, encompassing both direct economic performance and the wider systemic impacts of corporate activities on markets, institutions, and society. At the core, GRI 201, Economic Performance addresses value generation and distribution, enabling stakeholders to assess financial resilience and contribution to economic development. GRI 202, Market Presence, and GRI 203, Indirect Economic Impacts further expand this perspective by examining wage structures, local hiring practices, and the organization's role in fostering regional economic growth and infrastructure development. From a governance standpoint, standards such as GRI 204, Procurement Practices, GRI 205, Anti-Corruption, and GRI 206, Anti-Competitive Behavior underscore the importance of ethical conduct, transparency, and fair market participation. These disclosures are critical in reinforcing stakeholder trust and mitigating reputational and regulatory risks. Notably, GRI 207, Tax 2019, introduces a heightened level of transparency through country-by-country reporting, reflecting increasing global scrutiny on corporate tax practices. Collectively, the economic topic standards provide a holistic, accountability-driven lens, enabling organizations to demonstrate not only financial performance but also their commitment to ethical governance, equitable growth, and sustainable economic value creation. Slide 11. Economic performance, market presence and indirect impacts. The depiction of economic performance, market presence, and indirect economic impacts within the GRI framework reflects a multidimensional approach to assessing an organization's economic contribution and societal influence. These standards collectively transcend conventional financial metrics, offering a broader perspective on how corporate activities shape economic ecosystems. GRI 201, Economic Performance, 2016, focuses on value creation and distribution, encompassing revenues, operating costs, employee wages, and community investments. It also integrates considerations such as financial risks arising from climate change and the fulfillment of defined benefit obligations, thereby linking financial resilience with sustainability imperatives. GRI 202, Market Presence, 2016, examines an organization's engagement with local economies, particularly through wage structures and hiring practices. By assessing the alignment of entry-level wages with local minimum standards and the proportion of senior management recruited locally, it highlights the organization's role in fostering inclusive economic participation. GRI 203, Indirect Economic Impacts, 2016, extends the analysis to broader societal contributions, including infrastructure investments and the facilitation of economic development. It captures both positive and adverse ripple effects of business operations on communities and regions. Together, these standards provide a comprehensive and impact-oriented lens, enabling organizations to demonstrate not only financial performance but also their commitment to equitable growth, local empowerment, and sustainable economic development. Slide 12. Procurement, Anti-Corruption, Anti-Competitive Behavior and Tax. The depiction of procurement, anti-corruption, anti-competitive behavior, and tax within the GRI economic standards underscores the centrality of ethical governance and institutional integrity in sustainable business conduct. These standards collectively articulate how organizations must operate not merely as economic entities, but as responsible participants within transparent and fair market systems. GRI 204, Procurement Practices, 2016, emphasizes the strategic importance of local sourcing, encouraging organizations to prioritize suppliers within their operational geographies. This approach fosters regional economic development while strengthening supply chain resilience and stakeholder inclusivity. GRI 205, Anti-Corruption, 2016, establishes robust disclosure requirements on corruption risk assessments, employee training, and confirmed incidents. It reinforces a zero-tolerance stance toward unethical practices, thereby safeguarding organizational credibility and reinforcing stakeholder trust. GRI 206, Anti-Competitive Behavior, 2016, addresses legal compliance in relation to antitrust and monopoly regulations. By mandating transparency on violations and corrective actions, it promotes fair competition and market equilibrium. Notably, GRI 207, Tax, 2019, introduces a transformative dimension of fiscal transparency through country-by-country reporting and governance disclosures. It aligns corporate tax practices with broader societal expectations and sustainable development objectives. Collectively, these standards establish a framework of accountability, fairness, and transparency, enabling organizations to demonstrate ethical stewardship while contributing to stable, equitable, and well-regulated economic systems. Slide 13. Social topic standards, labor practices. The illustration of social topic standards, labor practices within the GRI framework highlights the foundational role of human capital management in achieving sustainable and ethical organizational performance. These standards provide a comprehensive lens through which organizations can assess and disclose their responsibilities toward employees, emphasizing fairness, safety, and continuous development. GRI 401, Employment, 2016, addresses critical aspects such as hiring practices, employee benefits, and workforce stability, reflecting an organization's commitment to equitable and inclusive employment conditions. Complementing this, GRI 402, Labor, Management Relations, 2016, underscores the importance of transparent communication, particularly in relation to operational changes, collective bargaining, and employee engagement. The focus on worker well-being is further reinforced through GRI 403, Occupational Health and Safety, 2018, which mandates robust systems to identify, manage, and mitigate workplace risks, thereby ensuring a safe and healthy working environment. Meanwhile, GRI 404, Training and Education, 2016, emphasizes continuous learning, skill enhancement, and career development, aligning workforce capabilities with evolving organizational and industry demands. Collectively, these standards establish a people-centric framework, integrating social responsibility into organizational strategy. They enable organizations to foster a productive, engaged, and resilient workforce while enhancing transparency, strengthening stakeholder trust, and contributing to broader socio-economic development. Slide 14. Diversity, Non-Discrimination and Freedom of Association. The depiction of diversity, non-discrimination, and freedom of association within the GRI social standards framework underscores the imperative of fostering equitable, inclusive, and rights-based workplaces as a cornerstone of sustainable organizational conduct. These standards collectively articulate the ethical and operational responsibilities of organizations toward their workforce and broader stakeholder ecosystem. GRI 405, Diversity and Equal Opportunity, 2016, emphasizes the importance of representation across governance bodies and employee categories, including diversity in gender, age, and other dimensions. It encourages organizations to cultivate inclusive leadership structures and address disparities, thereby strengthening decision-making and organizational resilience. GRI 406, Non-Discrimination, 2016, reinforces a zero-tolerance approach to discriminatory practices, requiring transparent disclosure of incidents and corrective actions. This standard highlights the necessity of embedding fairness and respect within corporate culture, ensuring equal treatment irrespective of background or identity. GRI 407, Freedom of Association and Collective Bargaining, 2016, safeguards fundamental labor rights, focusing on employees' ability to organize, engage in collective negotiations, and participate in social dialogue. It also addresses risks within operations and supply chains where such rights may be constrained. Collectively, these standards advance a human rights-centric approach, enabling organizations to promote dignity, inclusivity, and social justice while enhancing trust, compliance, and long-term organizational sustainability. Slide 15. Child labor and forced labor standards. The depiction of child labor and forced labor standards within the GRI social framework underscores the non-negotiable imperative of upholding fundamental human rights across organizational operations and value chains. These standards reflect a zero-tolerance stance toward exploitative labor practices, aligning corporate conduct with internationally recognized conventions and ethical norms. GRI 408, Child Labor, 2016, requires organizations to identify operations and suppliers where there is a significant risk of child labor and to disclose the measures undertaken to prevent and remediate such practices. It emphasizes proactive due diligence, particularly in high-risk geographies and sectors, ensuring that business activities do not inadvertently perpetuate cycles of exploitation. Complementing this, GRI 409, Forced or Compulsory Labor, 2016, addresses risks related to involuntary labor, including human trafficking, debt bondage, and coercive employment conditions. Organizations are expected to implement robust policies, monitoring mechanisms, and corrective actions to eliminate such practices from their operations and supply chains. Collectively, these standards reinforce a rights-based governance approach, compelling organizations to extend accountability beyond direct operations to encompass suppliers and business partners. They also enhance transparency and stakeholder confidence by demonstrating a commitment to ethical sourcing and responsible business conduct. Ultimately, adherence to these standards signifies a firm commitment to human dignity, social justice, and sustainable value creation. Slide 16. Security Practices and Rights of Indigenous Peoples. The depiction of security practices and the rights of indigenous peoples within the GRI Social Standards framework highlights the critical intersection between operational security, human rights, and community stewardship. These standards emphasize that organizational responsibility extends beyond internal governance to encompass the protection and respect of vulnerable and historically marginalized groups. GRI 410, Security Practices, 2016, addresses the conduct of security personnel, requiring alignment with internationally recognized human rights principles. It mandates disclosures on training, policies, and incidents related to the use of force or rights violations, particularly in sensitive or conflict-affected regions. This ensures that security functions operate not merely as protective mechanisms but as ethically governed components of organizational practice. Complementing this, GRI 411, Rights of Indigenous Peoples, 2016, focuses on the recognition and safeguarding of indigenous communities' rights, including land, culture, and self-determination. It requires organizations to disclose incidents of violations and the remedial actions undertaken, reinforcing accountability and respect for traditional knowledge systems and community autonomy. Together, these standards promote a rights-based and culturally sensitive approach, urging organizations to engage meaningfully with affected communities and mitigate adverse impacts. They strengthen trust, enhance social license to operate, and align corporate conduct with global human rights frameworks, thereby contributing to inclusive and sustainable development. Slide 17. Local Communities and Supplier Social Assessment. The depiction of local communities and supplier social assessment within the GRI Social Standards framework underscores the expanding scope of corporate responsibility, extending beyond organizational boundaries to encompass community well-being and supply chain integrity. These standards reflect a holistic approach to managing social impacts, ensuring that business operations contribute positively to society while mitigating adverse effects. GRI 413, Local Communities, 2016, emphasizes meaningful stakeholder engagement, requiring organizations to assess and disclose the impacts of their activities on surrounding communities. It encourages participatory development initiatives, impact assessments, and grievance mechanisms, thereby fostering trust and securing a social license to operate. The standard also highlights the importance of addressing potential risks in conflict-affected or vulnerable regions. Complementing this, GRI 414, Supplier Social Assessment, 2016, focuses on the evaluation of suppliers against defined social criteria, including labor practices, human rights, and ethical conduct. It mandates transparency regarding supplier screening processes and identified social risks, as well as the corrective actions undertaken to address them. Together, these standards promote a value chain-centric and community-oriented perspective, ensuring that organizations uphold social accountability at every level of operation. They enhance transparency, strengthen stakeholder relationships, and contribute to inclusive and sustainable development by aligning corporate practices with societal expectations and global ethical norms. Slide 18. Public Policy, Customer Health and Safety. The depiction of public policy and customer health and safety within the GRI social standards framework highlights the dual responsibility of organizations to engage ethically in the public sphere while safeguarding the well-being of end users. These standards reinforce the principle that corporate influence and product stewardship must be exercised with transparency, accountability, and societal consideration. GRI 415, Public Policy, 2016, addresses the organization's role in political engagement, including lobbying activities, political contributions, and participation in policy development. It requires transparent disclosure of such interactions, thereby mitigating risks of undue influence and ensuring alignment with democratic values and regulatory integrity. This standard underscores that corporate advocacy should be conducted responsibly, with due regard for public interest and sustainable development objectives. Complementing this, GRI 416, Customer Health and Safety, 2016, focuses on the life cycle impacts of products and services, requiring organizations to assess and disclose potential risks to consumer well-being. It encompasses product design, usage, and compliance with safety regulations, ensuring that organizations prioritize the protection of customers across all stages of delivery. Together, these standards establish a framework of responsible influence and consumer protection, enabling organizations to build trust, enhance credibility, and align their operations with broader societal expectations and ethical governance principles. Slide 19, Marketing, Labeling and Customer Privacy. The depiction of marketing, labeling, and customer privacy within the GRI social standards framework underscores the imperative of responsible communication and data stewardship in contemporary business practice. These standards reflect the growing expectation that organizations not only deliver quality products and services but also uphold transparency, accuracy, and trust in all customer-facing interactions. GRI 417, Marketing and Labeling, 2016, focuses on the integrity of product and service information, requiring organizations to disclose practices related to labeling, advertising, and customer communication. It emphasizes compliance with regulatory standards and mandates transparency in areas such as product composition, usage instructions, and potential impacts. By addressing incidents of non-compliance, the standard reinforces accountability and safeguards consumer trust. Complementing this, GRI 418, Customer Privacy, 2016, addresses the protection of personal data, a critical concern in an increasingly digitalized economy. It requires disclosure of substantiated complaints regarding data breaches and violations of customer privacy, thereby encouraging robust data governance frameworks and adherence to evolving data protection regulations. Together, these standards establish a consumer-centric paradigm, where ethical marketing practices and stringent privacy protections are integral to corporate responsibility. They enable organizations to build credibility, mitigate reputational risks, and align with global expectations of transparency, fairness, and digital trust. Slide 20. Complete GRI Standards, Full Catalog at a Glance. The presentation of Complete GRI Standards, Full Catalog at a Glance offers a consolidated and structured overview of the entire GRI ecosystem, reflecting the framework's comprehensiveness, coherence, and global applicability. By organizing the standards into distinct categories, universal, sector, and topic-specific, it illustrates the modular architecture that underpins effective sustainability reporting. At the foundational level, the universal standards establish core principles, governance disclosures, and materiality guidance applicable to all organizations. The inclusion of sector standards highlights the increasing emphasis on industry-specific nuances, enabling more precise and decision-useful disclosures tailored to high-impact sectors such as energy, mining, and agriculture. The topic standards, particularly within the environmental domain, such as biodiversity, climate change, and energy, demonstrate the framework's responsiveness to evolving global priorities. Their inclusion in the catalog underscores the dynamic nature of GRI, continuously updated to align with international sustainability agendas and regulatory developments. The catalog format itself enhances accessibility and navigability, allowing stakeholders to quickly identify relevant standards and their publication timelines. This structured compilation reinforces transparency and facilitates adoption across organizations at varying levels of reporting maturity. Overall, the full catalog embodies a holistic and integrated reporting system, enabling organizations to align sustainability disclosures with global best practices while advancing accountability, comparability, and long-term value creation. Slide 21. Complete GRI Standards, Economic and Environmental Topics. The presentation of Complete GRI Standards, Economic and Environmental Topics offers a structured synthesis of the dual pillars that underpin sustainable value creation, economic integrity and environmental stewardship. By systematically cataloging standards across these domains, the framework demonstrates the interconnectedness between financial performance and ecological responsibility. On the economic front, standards encompassing economic performance, market presence, indirect impacts, procurement practices, anti-corruption, anti-competitive behavior, and tax transparency collectively establish a robust governance architecture. They enable organizations to disclose not only value generation but also the ethical and institutional mechanisms that sustain fair markets and equitable growth. Concurrently, the environmental standards, covering materials, energy, water and effluents, emissions, waste, and supplier environmental assessment, provide a comprehensive lens through which organizations can evaluate and manage their ecological footprint. These disclosures emphasize resource efficiency, pollution mitigation, and life cycle accountability, aligning operational practices with global environmental imperatives. The integrated presentation of these topics reinforces the principle that economic success and environmental responsibility are mutually reinforcing rather than mutually exclusive. It facilitates comparability, enhances transparency, and supports informed stakeholder decision-making. Ultimately, this consolidated view embodies a holistic reporting paradigm, enabling organizations to align strategy, operations, and disclosures with global best practices in sustainability, thereby fostering resilience, accountability, and long-term value creation. Slide 22. Complete GRI Standards, Social Topics. The depiction of Complete GRI Standards, Social Topics provides a comprehensive overview of the social dimension of sustainability, emphasizing the centrality of human capital, rights-based governance, and stakeholder well-being in organizational accountability. This consolidated framework captures a wide spectrum of labor, human rights, and societal considerations, reflecting the breadth and depth of social impact embedded within business operations. The standards addressing employment, labor management relations, occupational health and safety, and training and education underscore the importance of fostering a safe, inclusive, and continuously developing workforce. They highlight the need for equitable employment practices, effective dialogue, and investment in human capital as drivers of organizational resilience and productivity. Further, the inclusion of diversity, non-discrimination, freedom of association, child labor, and forced labor reinforces a strong commitment to fundamental human rights. These standards compel organizations to adopt rigorous due diligence processes and ensure ethical conduct across both direct operations and extended supply chains. Additionally, topics such as security practices, indigenous rights, local communities, supplier social assessment, public policy, customer health and safety, marketing, and customer privacy extend accountability beyond internal structures to encompass broader societal interactions. Collectively, the social topic standards establish a holistic, people-centric reporting paradigm, enabling organizations to demonstrate ethical stewardship, strengthen stakeholder trust, and contribute meaningfully to inclusive and sustainable development. Slide 23. GRI Standards Glossary and how to access the standards. The presentation of GRI standards glossary and how to access the standards underscores the importance of conceptual clarity and accessibility in advancing high-quality sustainability reporting. The GRI Standards Glossary 2021 serves as a critical interpretative tool, providing standardized definitions for key terms used across the framework. By ensuring consistency in terminology, it mitigates ambiguity and enhances the reliability, comparability, and coherence of disclosures across organizations and jurisdictions. From a methodological standpoint, the glossary reinforces a common language of sustainability, enabling preparers, auditors, and stakeholders to engage with reports on a shared conceptual foundation. This is particularly vital in a global reporting environment where diverse regulatory, cultural, and operational contexts may otherwise lead to inconsistent interpretations. Equally significant is the emphasis on ease of access to the GRI standards. The availability of the full suite, comprising universal, sector, and topic standards, as a free digital resource ensures inclusivity and widespread adoption. Organizations may access the standards either as a consolidated package or as individual modules, thereby supporting both comprehensive and incremental implementation approaches. Collectively, the glossary and open access model reflect GRI's commitment to transparency, democratization of knowledge, and global harmonization, enabling organizations of all sizes to engage effectively in sustainability reporting and align with international best practices. Slide 24. Key takeaways, the GRI Standards Framework. The presentation of key takeaways, the GRI Standards Framework, encapsulates the essence of GRI as a globally authoritative and widely adopted system for sustainability reporting, offering organizations a structured pathway to disclose their economic, environmental, and social impacts with credibility and consistency. At its core, the framework is recognized as a global best practice, functioning as a universal reference point that transcends jurisdictions and industries. Its modular and interconnected architecture, comprising universal, sector, and topic standards, enables organizations to identify material issues and construct disclosures that are both comprehensive and contextually relevant. The reference to the complete catalog of standards highlights the breadth and dynamism of the GRI system, reflecting continuous updates in response to emerging global priorities such as climate change, biodiversity, and energy transition. This ensures that reporting remains aligned with evolving stakeholder expectations and regulatory landscapes. Importantly, the framework is intrinsically linked to sustainable development objectives, guiding organizations to align their strategies and disclosures with broader societal goals. By emphasizing materiality, transparency, and accountability, GRI facilitates informed decision-making and strengthens stakeholder trust. Collectively, these elements position the GRI standards as a holistic, adaptive, and impact-driven framework, enabling organizations to integrate sustainability into core business strategy and contribute meaningfully to long-term value creation. Well, this marked the end of the most globally accepted ESG reporting and disclosure standards known to be as Global Reporting Initiative, GRI standards. Taking lead from this next in upcoming week, we shift our focus from GRI to ISSB, largely known as International Sustainability Standards Board, which is linked with International Sustainability Standards Board, ISSB, that focuses on global baseline for investor-focused ESG disclosures and integrates financial materiality. They are linked as IFRS S1 covers general sustainability-related financial disclosures, while IFRS S2 focuses specifically on climate-related risks and opportunities, enabling consistent, comparable, and decision-useful information for investors in global capital markets. Lastly, we encourage you to remain actively engaged with our channel, participate in the forthcoming sessions, and thoughtfully share these insights across your professional networks, particularly among stakeholders committed to advancing sustainable disclosure practices and fostering responsible, transparent reporting within enterprises. Until then, we extend our sincere regards and look forward to your continued association.